And here's what getting into a franchise will save you: time. You can scale faster, right? And time is money, right? So you can get to cash flow positive. Not always, right? That's a general, I don't want to get generalizing there, but usually in a franchise, you've got the process. As long as you follow the process, hopefully you're going to scale much more quickly, get to cash flow positive, and make a better return much more quickly than trying to figure it all out on your own.
How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Wow. Welcome to another episode of the Tactical Empire. Today, I am joined with one of my favorite people, Mr. Anthony Hudson of Franchise Sidekick.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to chop it up and talk about all things today, my man. How are you?
Excellent, Jeff. Couldn't be more excited to be here. Love the intro, by the way. That was dope. Nice work. Nice work.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That. You and I are kind of in alignment with a lot of our values and kind of what we're trying to achieve. You have really, we probably haven't talked in about 2 years since our last conversation about this same topic. And, but you've kind of really dug in and even broadened your scope with what you have to offer in the franchise space.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited about this conversation because I want to hear more about it. I love talking financials of business and like all of the different opportunities. We were talking before the episode and I was mentioning how we've got a lot of people that listen that are doing the 9 to 5, but are maybe looking to take that leap into an entrepreneurial journey, but really don't know how to do it with regards to like, where's my money going to come from? How am I going to make 6 figures? I make 6 figures in this corporate job. How would I ever leave that? Right.
Sure.
So I totally skipped your intro. You tell us about yourself a little bit.
Love it. Don't worry, Jeff. We were getting right in. I was pumped. We got it. Yes. Appreciate it, Jeff. Anthony Hudson. I work for a great company called Franchise Sidekick, where our number one goal is to reduce your risk when it comes to buying a franchise. So I'm what you call a franchise advisor, right? So, and the best part about it is the best example I can give is I'm like a buyer's agent in real estate. So for the clients I work with, and I work with about 3 types of avatars, and you kind of already explained one, which is great. And we'll dive into that more, but, really it's, to reduce your risk when it comes to buying a franchise. For me, the number one goal is to show you some great and amazing brands, but I poke holes in these brands. And, the best part is it doesn't cost anything. Right. So, like a buyer's agent in real estate, if you were to work with me and we end up finding you a great match, then that franchise, if you were to move forward with it and become a owner of that franchise business, they pay my bills on the back end, right? So absolutely free service. And a lot of people get the notion that, well, he's going to pick and choose brands based on what he likes best or what pays him more. They all pay me the same, so I'm not biased. So what I'll tell you, when it comes to reducing risk, I poke holes in brands and even will talk you out of a brand before I will ever talk you into one specific brand. It's about getting your questions answered, getting all the unknowns out of the way so that there's no surprises and you can be confident going in to buying this franchise and helping you reach your goals. And we like to call it living life on your terms, right? So those are our two main objectives: is reduce your risk when it comes to buying a franchise and help you live life on your terms. And everybody's life on their terms looks different, which is great. Franchising can help answer a lot of those questions.
Man, when we talk about alignment, that's spot on to what I'm all about. So like I'm all about lifestyle engineering and doing what you want to do on a regular basis. And so like, tell me, that's fascinating. I didn't even know that's what you did. So that's fucking awesome. Like that's super exciting. Because you have so much experience. Like, so for me, I'm a business owner. I have 20 years experience owning businesses, running businesses, buying real estate and investment properties. Franchising is something I've looked into, but man, having your eyeballs on something like that coming into it would be super beneficial. So tell me this, predominantly, do you deal with like ground up startups, or do you deal with like, I'm going to buy this from Jeff Smith, who has run this business for 5 years and is selling an existing franchise?
Yeah. So we'll back into that question. So we don't do a lot. We call those resales. What you're just talking about. We do more from the ground up. And here's the challenge. So I spent a little bit of time. I've got 18 years of franchise experience. I'll go into my background a little more in a second. But the challenge with buying existing franchises or buying an existing business, and part of the reason I'm no longer a business broker is because there's a lot of challenges that go along with that. There's usually skeletons in the closet. There's usually the financials aren't necessarily fully transparent, right? There's usually stuff hidden in there. And you're also buying the reputation of the owner, right? The existing owner, whether that be good or bad, and their employees and staff. So the challenge can be not only is nothing is exactly as transparent or as we thought it would once be, but then if they've got a great reputation and you're a new buyer coming in, well, how are you going to win over those clients again from the previous owner? And on the flip side, maybe you're going to lose a bunch of clients, or maybe they're already on their way out anyways, right? So that's a challenge. And same thing with the staff. They may have loved the previous owner and you got to go in and win them all over again, or completely flip the staffing model and start over. Or on the flip side, maybe they didn't like that person so much and maybe they're on their way out as well, right? So that can be a huge challenge. Again, buying an existing business can be great for a lot of people. Even an existing franchise, a resale, there's just a lot of moving pieces, a lot of hoops to jump through. And I just, for me, there's more control when you start the franchise from scratch and find that great partnership with that franchisor, right? So that's why so my focus now, to answer your question, roundabout way, is mostly working with people that want to start a new franchise in their market or in the markets they're most interested in and build it from the ground up with the help and support of a franchisor. And that's the key. Most people don't realize support comes from a franchisor in many, many, many different ways. There's 4,000 franchise concepts in the United States today. There's a ton. Not all of them are good. We only work with about 130 brands in our portfolio, Jeff. So we heavily vet these things out. We work with the best of the best. It's quality over quantity. So again, the challenge is a lot of times people are buying a franchise. Yes, most franchises have a playbook and process to follow. They've got something there that has been at least a little bit proven. But a lot of these not great franchises hand you the playbook and process, say, hey, call us if you have any questions, but they don't want you to call them, right? It's like, here you go, good luck, see you never kind of thing. So we find the franchises, the great founders, the great franchises that support, right? Support franchisees and they're bought into their success. All of them should be, but not all of them follow through with it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Start with the description of what a franchise is and like the common things that go into purchasing a franchise as opposed to starting my own business on just down the street.
Yeah, a lot of it goes into support, right? So a franchise is usually a proven model, something that has been around for a while, multiple locations open. They've established an FDD. That's a franchise disclosure document, heavy document, 250 to 350 pages long, but it goes into the financials, history of the brand, number of locations open, number of locations awarded, because there's a development schedule usually. In franchising, a lot of times people that really want to grow and expand and scale a business and build an empire are going to do multi-unit, not just one location, but maybe multiple, right? And not all franchises are brick and mortar, by the way. So it's an established business or a business that's proven, and they've got support in many different ways. Sometimes that's maybe they run all your marketing and advertising. So maybe they do all your lead gen. A lot of them have call centers nowadays, so they're answering leads coming in for you. So you don't even have to have somebody to do that. They're qualifying them. So they have call centers or sales centers. Then they will schedule on your salesperson's calendar and help you with the sales thing, train you on it. And most of the people that buy franchises, especially in the service space, have no background or history in that franchise whatsoever. So you mentioned your fencing guy, right? To me earlier, right? I've probably awarded close to 20 different franchisees of fencing concepts. Super popular right now in the home service space. Absolutely none of them had any franchising experience, not contractor experience. A lot of them were getting out of a sales role, maybe C-suite, maybe technology. So that's the cool part about it. People get so caught up in, I need experience in this before I can get into it. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble, right? They'll teach you all that stuff. If you've got great sales background, maybe you can manage a team, good, strong business acumen, it works really, really well. And they train you on all the things that you need to know. And they're the experts in it. And it's ongoing training. It's not just the onboarding and the initial support. It should be ongoing for the great franchise. So that's what makes a good franchise, a great founder, right? Part of the process is you get to go and meet the team before you move forward, right? And then it's an approval process as well. That's the part that people don't understand coming into looking at a franchise. Well, they got to sell me. They got to win me over. Well, actually, for the best brands, it's in their best interest to make sure you're the right fit for the brand as well and make sure that you're going to be successful in that franchise. So there's a vetting process on both ends. And we'll get clients sometimes that think, hey, they got to sell me on this. If I'm going to buy it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my hard-earned dollars towards this, but they got to sell me. Yeah, some, but you also have to make sure that it's an interview process both ways. So that's what I help with as well, is coach people through that process and make sure they do get approved at confirmation day, because not everybody does. Right. So, and that's it's a timely process, right? So it's not something we're going to start today and be ready to buy a franchise in 5 weeks, right? It's much more timely than that. It can go faster or slower. I've worked with clients for 15 months. I've had somebody buy in about 6 weeks, right? But they were already in the process, kind of new franchising, knew they wanted to do something. So we were able to expedite it a little bit.
I love it. I love it, man. What do you think, or how many of these people that you've worked with over the past few years are successful early on?
Sure. Everybody's definition of success is different, right? So I will tell you, no failed concepts. No, people like, one of the main questions is, well, how many of these franchises fail, right? The other part of this, you mentioned it earlier. If it's not going well, life happens. People maybe need to move, have kids, whatever it is. Life happens to us, right? So, there is opportunities to resell. One of the best parts, and one of the things I love about franchising, is you've got a Rolodex of people that are probably ready to jump in and buy that franchise, whether it be other franchisees in the system that already own locations, that already know the business model, right? So those are great potential buyers. You've got clients, right? Or you've got some of your employees, right? So we sold our gym locations after about 8 years to one of our employees, right? He'd been with us for almost that entire time, built sweat equity. And we decided it was time to change and make a move. And we were involved in another franchise concept at the time that we wanted to double down on. Right. So that's the cool part about it. So you can be cash flow positive in the first month with some of these brands, but it's, you've got to go in and work and do the things. There's the challenge, Jeff, is a lot of people come in thinking, I want a passive business model. I don't care about the business. I don't care I just want to make money. I just want to see the numbers. I need my EBITDA to be here, right? And I need it within 1 year. That's not very likely. The brand's going to catch on to that. You're not going to be a good fit for the brand. You have to be involved and engaged and probably a little bit passionate about what you're getting into. Not maybe you're not passionate about fencing, to your example, but passionate about something that maybe it's being involved in the community, helping people, just having great client experience. Maybe it's hiring or employing people, right? So you can be passionate about a lot of different things. Maybe you're not passionate about the fencing industry, but that doesn't mean you can't be passionate about that type of business.
So you say you partner with 130 different companies in your portfolio. Or when you come to someone like for me, example, like if I come to you and I say, hey, listen, I want to get into franchising, and my budget is here, 500 grand, whatever. And I want to stay in Houston. Are you going to search regionally for me for a fit, 100%. Or do you vet all of that? Like, are you mobile? Are you willing to move? Are you willing to relocate? Okay.
Here's the process. So you come to me and say, hey, Anthony, I think I like this type of business. I'm looking for a side business. I'm going to stay with them. I already own businesses, but I need something. I want to diversify, additional revenue stream. Okay, perfect. What do we like? So you go through a process. I get to know you a little bit on the front end. I actually send you a questionnaire. And it's not like a 2-hour long survey where you're answering all these weird questions and like you're having some type of personality assessment. It's nothing that crazy, but it helps me understand your goals, passions, preferences, and your budget. I take that information. I do territory checks. I look at the brands that I know are successful, that I've had franchisees buy in the past that are doing well. And then I take all your answers, and We use technology to rank and score brands as well. So it's not just my opinion, right? I've been in the industry 18 years, but that doesn't mean I know it all. And it doesn't mean my opinion is going to match with your opinion, right? So
Yep.
use data and technology to rank and score these brands, and it spits out 5 key brands that are available in your market or markets that you're interested in. It asks you, hey, Houston, maybe I like Austin as well. Maybe I'm interested in Dallas, right? Whatever. And then I review those brands with you. So we spend an hour not deep dive, but enough you're going to know initial investment, potential earnings, what customer acquisition looks like, what the staffing model looks like, and a history of the brand. And then I usually have you pick 2 or 3 that you like. So we're looking at 2 or 3 at the same time, vetting them out, and it's a process of elimination from there, because the key is to be able to compare and contrast some of these things. I don't pick those. I pick the 5. You pick the 2 or 3 that you like. You say, hey, Anthony, I like this, or you'll ask me my opinion, or I might jump in every once in a while and say, hey, Jeff, this one's a curveball. It wasn't actually on the list. It didn't make the top 5, but I think this there's something special about, or I see you in this one for some reason, right? And if you don't like it, all good. It doesn't hurt my feeling. I don't care which brand you pick. It's all good, but we take you through the process that way. And there's a process of elimination from there. And that whole process on average can take 2 to 3 months on average. We can go faster, we can go slower. We just don't skip steps. We've got a full list of steps. We call it the Sidekick 7. We're
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, what am I looking at from an investment standpoint? Because I just spitballed 500 grand. I've looked into these things. I think it ranges hugely.
Yes, absolutely. Some people don't have 500. A lot of people don't have 500, right?
Yeah.
So, and we have funding options. That's part of me being a resource for you. So there's other options there when it comes.
That's what I was going to get to next, because some of them are like millions of dollars.
Absolutely. So on the very low end, you can get into a brand for less than $100,000, right? We'll say 75 for the good brands. There are some people put $10,000, $30,000, right? You get what you pay for in some things. We've got some over $1 million, right? Some unique brick and mortar concepts, things like that, medical concepts. There's spas now that have become widely popular, TRT clinics that are that are flying off the shelves now. So there's some higher stuff, but you don't have, that doesn't mean you have to have 500 in the bank to be able to do that, or $1 million in the bank. We've got great funding partners. You can use retirement funds. There's SBA loans, which interest rates are high right now. I'm not going to lie, but it's part of the deal. And you can pay those things off early. You don't have to keep the debt for forever, right? You're doing well. You can certainly pay that off. So there's a ton of funding options. I'm not the funding expert, but I have those resources for clients, introduce them to you, and then you put together how you want to fund the business.
So you're talking, okay, let's, because we just went 75,000 to like $1.5 million. So like, if I'm sitting here going like, what is my real wheelhouse number to think about? It's probably like 125 to 300, right?
Yeah. Most of our brands, and the other piece of this is that can be one unit, one territory. So a unit or a territory for a home service brand, a home-based business might be on average 250,000 people, 300,000 people, right? So that's what you're getting that are based on key demographics for that brand. So maybe average household income, there's a lot of different factors, psychographics, demographic, all that stuff. For a brick and mortar concept, it's usually a 3 to 5 mile radius. And then again, maybe 150,000 people, give or take, right? And that's your hunting grounds for the real estate inside that radius. But those territories are protected. So you buy a territory, you're protected in that territory in terms of nobody else can market to or try to steal clients from that protected territory. And nobody can market to them as well, right? So that's another key factor. If you've got a neighboring franchisee, they can't go into your territory, right? Hopefully, if you're doing it right, you've got a great neighbor partner that you can cross network with. And, that's part of getting into a franchise system as well. Hopefully they've got great people in the system that you guys can kind of piggyback off each other and work to really grow the market. But then to get back to the investment question, depends on your goals, right? So you get into one territory for, let's say it's 150, you can get 2 or 3 or 4 territories of a home service brand for it doesn't double every time, right? So there's a franchise fee involved, but you're just adding equipment and maybe staff. Brick and mortar, it's going to probably close to double because of the leasing of the space and the build out and all the other things that go along with it, paying rent, all that good stuff. But that's why people like home service brands, because you're just adding equipment, you're adding a little bit more staff. maybe you've got one truck right now, one vehicle, and you can go into that second territory with that vehicle until you're ready to get a second crew going. So the scalability factor of a home service brand increases the potential tremendously and keeps your risk pretty low. Right. So somebody says, hey, I want to get a certain income level. Maybe that's one territory of a brick and mortar concept or 3 territories for a home service brand to get to that. And that's okay because you're diversifying yourself that way as well. And then maybe a better exit value at the end of this too.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Okay. Okay.
Am I going too
like
fast? I'm just throwing it all out there.
I know. I love it. I love it because like, hey man, we're here to change people's lives.
Absolutely.
And if this is resonating with somebody that can like, be like, I'm ready to make that switch. And I know, so tell me here's another question. So we know we have SBA financing, we have alternative financing that we can get together. Can we truly get like to zero out of pocket?
Sort of. So let's start with SBA. So SBA is going to require 20 to 30% cash injection. So if you want $100,000 loan, you need 20 to 30 grand cash injection. Not that you can't pay yourself back once the loan funds, you can pay yourself that money back and just make payments on it if you want. But yeah, you usually need 20 to 30% down on SBA. In terms of, there's rollovers. So some people, like when I first bought our first franchise, I was in a corporate job at the time. I borrowed against my 401k, right? So I had a 401k built up. I just borrowed money against it and paid it back, kept my corporate job. There's that option. If you got old 401ks from other jobs, you can use that to fund businesses or other retirement accounts, right? So there's a lot of options that way. So cash out of pocket, out of hand, no, but you can almost borrow yourself money and not pay interest on it. That makes sense.
Well, so like what Anthony's saying there though, is like, that's what I wanted to make crystal clear. Cause like, even if it's $500,000 to get into the franchise, you may only be looking at like 75, 100 grand of cash to make that happen. Because I mean, in real estate, we're always trying to do capital stacks and keep it so that like I'm borrowing from here, borrowing from there, and I'm not using any of my own cash. And so I want them to understand the reality of what it would look like from your savings account, from your life insurance policies, from your 401k, self-directed IRAs. The true cash out of pocket could be as low as $50,000 for the $75,000 one you're talking about for sure.
Exactly right. So, and to further that point, so every franchise, when you get into it, to start the process, to sign an agreement, to get the protected territory, you do pay a franchise fee. Those franchise fees, exactly what you're saying, usually range from, we'll say $40,000 to maybe $75,000, right? So that's part of the initial investment though. So if it's 150, part of that initial investment is the initial franchise fee. So that's included in there, and you can take out an SBA loan to do that, right? So that helps there as well. So there's usually some type of cash injection, but there's ways around it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just think that that's important to know, because ultimately, if you want to be a savvy investor, you should use the least cash that you possibly can and leverage the rest of it. And then do what you were saying and just make sure you don't have any prepayment penalties on your loans that you're taking out. And then you just pay it off in 2 or 3 years when you've got the business up and running and it's very profitable at that point. And then you have like completely changed your life because you're not in your 9 to 5 anymore. And it's 2 years later, you're making more money, you're taking care of the debt. And then there's no reason to wait on that. That's just, it's a super interesting model from having like, not only is franchising a safety net, right? Because they provide you with the processes and the SOPs and a lot of the software support and everything else that you've talked about. But also, like, if you're worried about this process or you're risk averse, like hiring someone like Anthony to put a second set of eyes on it even makes it that much more kind of bulletproof, in that you're not taking that leap of faith as much as otherwise you would be, right?
Absolutely. Most of my job, Jeff, is managing fear, reducing risk, managing fear. It's tough. It's a big decision. Financial, you're looking to change your life, and maybe you've been doing the same thing for the past 20 years. You know something needs to change. There's plenty of pain points there, but just getting over that hump can be super difficult. I'd love to say it works every time. It doesn't always work. And sometimes people get all the way and get approved, and decide not to move forward, and that's okay, right? It's got to be the right thing for you. I will never be mad that somebody goes through the process. They got more educated. They learned a lot of stuff. Maybe you can take it back into their own corporate job or their other business, right? So there's plenty of benefits. All you committed to is time at that point. When you work with me, all you're really committing to is some time. And that's the cool part about it. So.
Well, if you want to dive into this process, I can assure you that managing fear is something you should get used to if you're going into business for yourself, because we're all scared shitless all the time anyway. And that doesn't ever change. So if you're scared in the buying process, get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always different parts of fear throughout any part of business, right? Whether you're buying or getting into it or, on year 10. So. Good.
So tell me this, what are some of the hottest concepts you're seeing? We talked about spas, we talked about TRT.
Yep. That's everybody's favorite. I will tell you, there's a TRT clinic. It goes by the name of Game Day Men's Health. It's all men focused. They have awarded about 600 franchise territories in the past 8 months. Never seen anything. So let me give you my background real quick, and that'll maybe help put it into perspective. I've been in franchising 18 years. I ran development for brands. That's when you and I first hooked up, when I was running development for a couple different franchise concepts. You sent me a buddy of yours, which I appreciate. So I did that. I've owned franchises, right? So a lot in the fitness space. That's been my background. So scaled and sold 2 different fitness concepts, multi-unit. My wife is in franchising now as well. She's a franchisor of a mobile dog grooming and pet washing franchise, right? Which is a unique concept. Pet space is big, just to answer part of that question.
Sure.
And then I'm on the, I hate to talk about it because it's not official yet, but I'm on the 1 yard line, about ready to buy, speaking of resales, an existing pest control company here in town. It's a franchise. So that is right around the corner as well. So been in the fitness space, brick and mortar the whole time. And now I'm realizing the power of a home service brand and doing something on the pest control side of things. So, but to go back to the original question, sorry, remind me what it was. I lost my train of thought.
Hot franchise.
Yeah. So Game Day Men's Health, right? So in 18 years, I've never seen a brand grow so fast. Here's the deal though. Game Day, they've awarded 600 territories. They've only got about 10 open. They believe in the founder. They believe in the process. They've got plenty of clients throughout those 10, we'll call it clinics, but that's going to take years to build out these brands, right? So it's not, when it's brick and mortar, that's another challenge, Jeff, is with the pest control company or a home service brand, I can get open up and running and start generating revenue in 45 to 60 days, right? So that's reducing my risk tremendously. I can get up and running quick. Brick and mortar, you're waiting 9, 12, 15 months by the time you find a location. There's some cases where you can pre-sell and do some membership stuff early and get some revenue in the bank, but you're waiting so long. So all the excitement's there. And then then fear kicks in. That 12 months, you're finding the location, doing the build out. Finally, grand opening hits, and then you're off to the races. But that's tough too, right? So people don't always. I tell them all the time, but when they actually get into it and feel it, they're like, I told you this is how that's going to feel. So Game Day Men's Health is a big one. Medical spas, medical's big, and most of my medical clients that have bought Game Day, or most of my clients that bought Game Day, had no medical experience, right? So they help vet medical directors that can work in the business for you, very part-time, almost a subcontractor model, believe it or not. The recovery space, we've got one that called Pause, which is, it's a lot of different things like float, IV therapy. They do red light. They do contrast therapy. So that's recovery's big. IV therapy's big. I'd love to see a great mobile IV therapy concept where you can go and go to the client, right? Instead of just having a brick and mortar concept. I think that would be big. Maybe I should start that one. No. What else? Pet space is huge. Home service is tried and true, like any home service. So you mentioned fencing. We've got 3 different fencing concepts right now, more than probably any other industry, because it's just blowing up. People can't get fences. They're waiting 6 to 8 months. The demand is huge for it, right? So it depends on what you want. We've got something for about everybody, but we don't just grab something out of an industry just because people are asking about it. We heavily vet, like we don't let somebody into our portfolio unless they've been vetted out tremendously well. And then in some cases, we kick brands out of our portfolio as well because they're not following through with what they said. Maybe they're closing locations. Maybe they're having other issues. So we try to keep our thumb on that at all times as well. So
I love it. I love it, man. what are you looking for in like, you've done this long enough.
Yeah.
If I come to you and say, I want a franchise, and like, what are you looking for to determine a successful franchisee? Like, and I'm asking, this is totally like arbitrary, like your decision, like, because I mean, you don't know, but like your experience should tell you this guy has a propensity to be successful, or this guy's going to totally fucking fail at this.
I usually know after my first conversation, which is only 30 minutes with the client, if they're going to be successful or not, or if they're even going to do it. Right. Cause there's tire kickers in anything. Right. Which is fine. And listen, I had the opportunity to talk to them, and maybe they know somebody else that they can refer me that it is a better fit. So we've got 3 avatars, right? So 3 key clients we work with. We've got names for them. So we call them portfolio Pete's. They're the investor types, right? So Pete is, Pete's Jeff's portfolio Pete, right? So wants to be pretty hands-off, not super involved with the business, but wants to know numbers, exit value, like really involved on the financial side of things. I'll be honest, Jeff, you were probably not my ideal client. And I enjoy working with Pete's. I do. But I enjoy our side business Sam's, so our Sam's or our Freedom Freddies, right? So I'll explain those in a second, because they maybe have a little bit more passion about what they're doing, right? So they get involved in the business and they want to be in it a little bit more and hopefully have a passion for it, right? There's a reason they want to do this rather than just adding to their portfolio, right? Which is, I'm all about boring. Boring's good too. Like I'm buying a pest control company. That's boring. That's not sexy, right? So I get that. So our Pete's, right? So those are great clients. Big investor types, right? We've got celebrity athletes that have come in. Like those are great clients. Anybody that's wanting to get out of maybe the stock market, real estate, crypto, whatever, and just diversify. That's great. So love those. Our Freedom Freddies. So you talk about the 9-to-5ers that have been in corporate America for forever. And the challenge coming in there, the fear that we've got to get around, or the misconception is they're buying another job, right? They're not buying a job. What we're doing is replacing their income, right?
Yep.
That's what I did. I was in corporate America. My whole goal was to get out of corporate America, replace my income, and then run my gyms, right? So that's what we did, right? So you're working part-time in the business. Maybe you've been in corporate America and you're kind of running on autopilot. You can put 20 hours a week towards your business a little bit and still, keep your manager happy on the corporate side of things or whatnot, right? So that works really well. I really enjoy it because that was me, right? So that one hits home. So I really enjoy working with Freddy's. And then side business Sam, that's technically me too. Sometimes they fall kind of in between there, but somebody that's got a job they love or got a business they love, but maybe they want to piggyback off of it. So that's another cool thing we found, Jeff, in franchising is a lot of these home service brands, you can piggyback or bundle them together, right? So people think to scale a business, maybe I'm going to do the same franchise in 4 or 5 or 6 different territories. That can work great. Or maybe you buy one franchise, or maybe you've got a business already and you bolt on another franchise concept. So fencing and pools, for example, fencing and pest control, fencing and gutters, fencing and wash, any of those, right? And then you're adding there, and then instead of expanding out in a footprint, you're staying in your backyard, but then you're adding different franchise concepts that maybe you can use some of your same staff. Maybe some of them are seasonal, so you're not doing it all year around. So we've kind of carved out a niche where we've got clients that are buying 3 or 4 different franchises in the same backyard, same general area, and expanding their portfolio that way, which is great. So those are our 3 avatars. Portfolio Pete's, more investor types, side business Sam's who want, an additional revenue stream, and then Freedom Freddies that are looking to get out of their corporate 9-to-5 typically.
I love it. I might be a side business Sam too. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, you're good either way in my book.
I just like revenue streams.
There you go. Absolutely.
So give me some examples of like something that would be an effective business for a side business Sam.
Yeah, brick and mortar's tough. You're going to be in the location, manage it, hire staffing models. So a lot of the home service brands work really well. Many of them, again, the franchisor does a lot of the marketing and advertising. You're going to want to be grassroots. Maybe you're going to be the face of the business to where, hey, you're networking. You say, hey, we opened this business. networking, like with real estate agents potentially, or there's a lot of opportunities there. Leaner staffing model, pretty carved out niche, right? So there's not a lot of moving parts. A simple bit. We look for simple businesses, right? Simple doesn't mean you can't make money. Simple means it's easier to run and manage, right? So for a side business, side hustle, the simpler, the better. The leaner staffing model where the franchisor is doing a lot on the front end. And a lot of these brands too, they subcontract out the work, right? So you maybe don't have the installers actually on your payroll. Yeah, you do as a subcontractor, but they're not actually employees, right? So some people go both ways with that. Some people don't like the subcontractor thing. They think they're harder to manage. It's all head trash, right? You can figure it out either way. You really can. So, home service, we've probably out of our, I don't know, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but we're probably a little heavier 60-40 home service or home-based business to brick and mortar. I would say maybe even 70-30 in our portfolio, just so you know. Okay. People love the home service space. It's just simpler, less overhead, less challenges.
Well, I mean, it also makes a lot of sense because there's a need for it, and there always will be. And so, it makes a lot of sense. What's next for you, man?
Well, that's a great question. So here at Sidekick, the best part about this place is, so I'm a W-2 employee. So I work for Sidekick, but I get to be like an entrepreneur, right? So you're familiar with that term, but so I get to run my own business inside of this business. They handle the lead gen. They handle like a lot of our social media, all that stuff. So I get to do what I get to do best is work with clients, right? Use my experience to help clients. And then the other piece of this is I also get to build a team. Right. So I've got a team of 4 advisors under me. I'm bringing on a 5th next week. So half my time is spent working with clients and half my time is is coaching my advisors so they can do potentially what I do. So it's kind of a rinse and repeat model, so it's almost a franchise inside of Sidekick's almost a franchise inside of what we're doing. So this is my full-time majority of my my time and energy is spent in Sidekick. But then, as I mentioned, my wife is working on building that franchise, Hydro Dog. It's called Mobile Dog Grooming and Pet Washing. So that's her. She talks to me about it. I help maybe with the major decisions, but that's all her. I don't know much about that business at all. And then, like I said, we're getting ready to purchase a pest control business, which is seasonal, which I do like. So there's a draw there that I can appreciate. So that's the next thing. And then who knows from there. I'll be honest, I am fortunate that I get kind of a sneak peek on some of these brands before they kind of go out to the masses. So I'm a big franchise guy, if you can't tell, but I'm not, I need to get on the real estate side of things and do some other stuff. I'm not invested in real estate really. So that's something that I need to diversify in as well. So who knows down the road, but so you and I need to talk about that at some point, I think.
Right on, man. Absolutely. Do you think that, because I think one of the biggest things people run into with, you talked about head trash already and like the mental aspect of this game. I'm sure that that's the number one thing that you run up against when convincing people, like, not that you're there to sell them on this opportunity, but like, when I look at something and I'm like 6% gross revenue paid weekly to the franchise or something like that. And I'm like, fuck, that seems like the harder I work, the more I give away. Like, how do you overcome that thought process? Because most of the people, and I'm going to generalize this and I probably should just shut my mouth, but most of the people come out of the corporate world with a scarcity mindset anyway, because they're used to getting paid a certain amount of money every other week, and you can't move that needle very much in their world. And so, like, to say that I'm going to work harder and I'm going to give away more on a weekly basis, like, that's got to scare the shit out of them, right?
Yeah, you're talking about royalties, right? So cost of doing business with a franchisor. Yep, 100%. So a couple things. I'm not saying like a range of royalties are about 5 to 9% in my portfolio. So you're paying 5% of gross revenue. That sounds like a lot to a lot of people. Like, I'm doing all this and they're not really. So we need to determine with each brand, and it's your determination. I'll help you with it. What value are you getting for that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9%? How much support are you truly? Are they running all your lead gen for you? Are they answering the phone? Are they putting great leads on your calendar to close? If so, is it worth that much? Probably, right?
Yeah.
Are they training your new employees? Are they recruiting your medical director so you don't have to go find that person? I have no idea what a medical director's credentials should look like, right? So it depends on the brand. Some are overcharging and underperforming for the royalty. So we need to determine the value. On the flip side, people that are in W-2 or that are not, they don't own their own business, there's so many tax advantages, right? Paying the tax man is the biggest problem for me, right? So if you can get in a business and take some write-offs and do some smart things there, you're saving more money than this silly royalty that you're worried about anyways, and plenty more, right? So people they don't think about that. They don't think about that. And you have to get a good CPA. You have to find, we're doing it the right way, of course, but that's a huge benefit, right? So that part of the reason I wanted to get into business is I want to bet on myself, right? And I wanted to control the outcome better than an 8% return year over year in the stock market or whatever. I think I can do better than 8%, but if I work my tail off and if I'm focused, right? So it's a little bit of betting on yourself, but the royalties are always going to be there. It's just what value you're getting, and then taking tax advantages by business ownership.
So are you guys helping with the legal contracts and all that stuff? Because those royalties are subject to change occasionally and things like that. And so I didn't do a very good job clarifying what I was talking about when I was like, give them 6% weekly. So thank you for clarifying. I act like these people all know everything that listen to this. The royalties are what I was speaking about. What other expenses are ongoing for the business owner coming into a franchise model that they should be aware of?
Depends on the brands, but technology, like there's a cost for that technology, all your logins for your CRM, your scheduling tool, your inventory tools, all those things. There's a cost to that you absorb. Like the franchisor doesn't absorb the advertising cost, just like in any business, right? That's going to be ongoing. You need to get in front of your ideal clients. They're running it for you. And usually there's a minimum spend they want you to hit, but it's to set you up for success. It's not that they're not taking that marketing spend, right? They're not taking that. That's you investing into your business. It's not an expense, it's an investment, right? So those are the main ones, right? Royalties, yes. Equipment and things like that, that's obviously part of it in a startup. So the initial investment's heavier, but the ongoing expenses shouldn't be terrible. It depends on the brand, of course, right? So it's usually no more than what you would, and here's what getting a franchise will save you: time. You can scale faster, right? And time is money, right? So you can get to cash flow positive. Not always, right? That's a general, I don't want to get generalizing there, but usually in a franchise, you've got the process. As long as you follow the process, hopefully you're going to scale much more quickly, get to cash flow positive and make a better return much more quickly than trying to figure it all out on your own. So that royalty, you're paying that, but you're buying back time with it as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, money loves speed, and the faster you can get to profitability is good. And like a guy like me, I would buy all of the fanciest shit that you don't even need. So like from that standpoint, you could think of it as like, you don't know what you don't know. And this franchise can actually save you some expenses that you would get talked into otherwise. Like a simple one is like some jazzy ass CRM that you don't need. So like your tech stack might turn out to be like $300, and you might go out and say, well, I need a website design, and get the wool pulled over your eyes and get a $30,000 website or something. And so,
or a digital marketing company that you're paying, you're not paying for results, you're paying them a retainer and no guaranteed. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I have paid all of those lessons in spades, and I'm not involved with a franchise. And so I have spent more than these franchises would cost making mistakes. So like that is something to understand. And when you're talking about reframing your mindset about it, you said it spot on. And these are investments as opposed to expenses. And you're not going to run a business without expenses anyway. So like when you look at these expenses that are royalties and things like that, it's not a net negative on every single one. You would have that expense regardless.
Correct. They just have it streamlined for you. So you're hopefully saving money. You should be probably.
Yeah. And vetting, like what you guys do in vetting the value return, the value exchange is what I think most people can't conceptualize when coming into this process. Cause I've looked into like Blimpies and
Yeah.
fucking Chick-fil-A and all these other ones. I was looking at restaurants for a while.
Sure.
And I've got a long story about sandwich shops, and I didn't want to make a sandwich and work with 16-year-olds. So I backed out of it.
Thank
But, when you think about this stuff, it really helps to understand, like, having your experience come in and say, like, this is what the franchisor is actually offering from an ongoing support and service standpoint. Because, like we've talked about, you don't know what you don't know. And so you may go in and say, oh, a 9% royalty with zero support and zero backing. And you may not understand, like, you may just think that's what a franchise does. And like that, you might dive into it. But with your expertise and like set of eyes coming in and saying, no, man, they should be providing you with coaching, mentorship, team training, like all kinds of other shit for 9%. Like that's hugely valuable to understand, because in having the network you guys have, I may be able to look at 5 different businesses in a month, as opposed to it taking me 3 months per business to try to learn about Anytime Fitness.
Exactly.
And then try to go learn about Blimpies, and then try to go learn about whatever.
That's before I was I didn't hire a franchise advisor. It took me 2 years to find my first franchise. I looked at everything, window cleaning, carpet, like all of it. I wanted to be in fitness, but I didn't want to like pigeonhole myself. Right. So yeah, it took me 2 years, started and stopped probably 10 different times, got frustrated. Right. So that's what we want to alleviate. Sometimes there's one client that took me about 15 months, right, to help him find something, but I'll stick with it as long as we keep building momentum and stay involved in the process. It's good. I do want to go back to real quick. You asked about helping vet out the franchise and the FDDs on the legal side of things. So we don't have that in our department currently. I look at FDDs for clients. We review them all before we bring them into the portfolio, but we have franchise attorneys that we use for our clients, right? So you get close to the end, right before you go to confirmation day, where is the last step to get approved. I introduce you to the franchise attorney, and then they vet out the FDD for you and make sure it's peace of mind is really what it is. And I'll be honest. And here's a big misconception. A lot of people think that royalties and franchise fees and stuff in the franchise agreement is super negotiable. A lot of times it's not. If they had one-off deals for every single franchisee in the brand, that puts everybody at risk. Right. Exactly. So there's a few things, and I help with that, and I want to do what's best for you. And if it's a deal breaker, so be it. And we move on. Right. But that's part of it as well. And some people have misconceptions about that, thinking they can wheel and deal on everything. And you're getting what you get in the franchise. That's the reason it's a franchise. And to your point that, there's a lot of restaurant franchises out there. We don't play in that space very much. Right. So not that they're bad. Some of them, they're great for some people, but it's good.
Last question for you. I would be remiss not to ask this, because I see it come up frequently. Is there any franchises that are a better fit for, like, let's say, a veteran? And are there any benefits?
Yes. Great question. Yes, there are benefits. Most franchises, every franchise is different. Usually some type of discount on the franchise fee or maybe royalty. Yep. So you're paying less on that end. And I don't know if there's one specific franchise for veterans, but veterans are great because they're used to systems and processes, right? Being with that background. So franchising makes a ton of sense, right? They just get, this is how it's done. This is the process. Stick to it. You'll be successful, so on and so forth. So I can't pick one off the top of my head that would be like ideal. It's more about goals, preferences, passions, those kind of things for individual. But yeah, almost every I can't think of one in our portfolio that doesn't have some type of veterans discount.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was like a lending package that was more beneficial.
Sometimes there's that stuff too. Yeah, no, absolutely. There can be benefits on the lending side of things or on the funding side of things too. Yep.
Sure. Yep. Cool. It just something that popped into my mind, because people are always asking me about that. And I think veterans are great fits for franchises, because like they're usually not opposed to work. That's one thing as well. Like getting up early and doing the work for as long as it takes is something that we're pretty used to. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. How can people get a hold of you, Anthony?
Yeah, a couple ways, and I can send you a couple of my links. FranchiseSidekick.com is our website. It's got all our brands. So there's a brands tab where you can go and search them. Now, I will tell you, it's It's a sneak peek. It's the movie trailer, right? You don't get the you don't get the full movie there, but it gives you a general idea. The best thing to do is meet with me and let's have a conversation. Free, doesn't cost anything. I'll give you a link to my calendar, and people can just go on and book full free consultation, 30 minutes, and we'll see if it's a good fit and go from there. You know, or my email, ahudson@franchisesidekick.com, whatever works, right? I'm on all the social media channels as well. So LinkedIn is probably the best for that. Just my name, Anthony Hudson. So that's where most of my content, Franchise Sidekick content is. If you want to, and we have a YouTube channel as well. We've got it all. I don't know. That was like 5 answers. Sorry.
All good. All good. We're throwing the link on the video. So if you're on the YouTube channel, you can see his link right there, and we'll include it in all the show notes as well.
Super.
So yeah, man, thank you so much for your time. I'm super excited. I love this space because I do think it's a really good fit for a lot of people. And I think people kind of tend to overlook it. I think that if you're stuck in a job that you're not passionate about, like franchising is definitely something you should look into. There's good money to be made in it.
Absolutely.
I mean, really good money. And like, if it's something that you have thought about, get with Anthony and just at least run through that 30-minute discovery call and figure out if it's a good fit for you.
Love it. Yeah, totally appreciate it.
Well, man, thank you so much for the time. I love watching you and your family grow. It's fun to see you guys winning. So if I can ever help you in any way, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Will do, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. Loved it.
Absolutely,
Appreciate
brother.
it.
Appreciate it.